Hello, and welcome to Birth Through the Veil. I'm Melissa Kemrudin, and this week, Whapio is joining me. Her body of work has come up often in the stories that I have listened to. If you've been listening to this podcast for any amount of time, I am certain you have heard her name. Her holistic stages of labor is incredible. It's what comes up most often. If you haven't already, you've got to go and read it or listen to it. Her work on altered states of consciousness in birth is mind-blowing. I have heard it several times, and every time I get something new out of it. Hearing her speak on the father's role in birth totally changed my perspective of men in birth. It changed how I related to them as a doula and how I was able to witness my husband support me in the birth of our children. I recently heard her speak on homeopathy and healing the ancestral line and was absolutely blown away again. In this episode, we dive right in. We chat homeopathy and abundance, personal responsibility, the value of childhood diseases, who might want a birth keeper versus wanting a regulated professional. We take a look at the depth and profundity of the year-long quantum midwifery cohort that she is offering. This cohort starts soon, friends. It's at the beginning of February. It's a whole year of in-depth study of birth. If any part of you is feeling the call toward this is the time. This is the last cohort that Whapio will be facilitating before she passes the torch on. I can't wait for you to hear this conversation. Thank you so much for coming to chat with me today.
You are very welcome. Thanks for the honor of sitting in with you. All right.
Yeah. Where do your passions lie recently? What do you like to talk about? Because you have so much wisdom. I'd be open.
Homeopathy. You were there when we did the ancestral healing. Okay.
Yes.
I want to move into that area.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. A whole big lot, because I know it's the medicine of the future.
Yeah.
And we are becoming less dense, and energy penetrates us more easily, and we need medicine to catch up with us now, to keep on evolving. All right. So we need an energetic type of medicine because our energetic bodies are coming through and available for the penetration of energy. All right. Receiving energy. Years ago, 15 years ago, you had to have 3, 4, 5, 6 Reiki treatments. Now, all you need is one,
Yeah.
if you're really willing to accept that energy. So that makes me happy.
Yeah. Why do you think that is?
Well, because we are, okay. I think that we've come here to, I don't know if to play around with the duality, to try to understand the duality. There's a lot of duality. There's sunset, sunrise. There's left, right. There's male, female. There's hot, cold. There's particle, wavelength. We know how to be particles, but we don't know how to be wavelengths yet. And quantum physicists have said that during the course of your life, maybe not mine, but we will learn how to access ourselves and as a particle or a wavelength, just like that duality, right?
What do you think that means? I don't even know what that means.
Well, that means that we are going to evolve. If we have a choice to be a particle or a wavelength, that's evolutionary. That's revolutionary. All right. So it's more choices. It's more evolution. I'm here for the evolution.
Yeah.
I'll be 78 on my next birthday. And, I still want to be here. I still want to be relevant. I want to see what comes next.
Mm-hmm.
Aren't we sitting on the cusp of something?
Yes.
Right. And we keep talking about it and talking about it and talking about it. And I'm feeling like, okay, when are we actually going to do it? When are we actually going to do something that is a major change that isn't COVID, or it's the benefits of COVID. It's I'm interested in that. I'm interested in how the world is going to evolve, and I want to be a part of that.
Yeah, it seems a lot of people are feeling that, like this shift. It's uncomfortable. Like something's coming, and we don't know what.
Well, the people that I admire, I think during COVID, for instance, the most clear and resonant voice for me was Zach Bush, MD.
Hmm.
Okay. I liked a lot of what he said, and a lot of what he is about is, realigning with nature
Hmm.
and our
Yeah.
natural. But then how do you do that? I get it. Zach, tell me more. you
Hmm.
know, tell me more. But that's right. You're right. I feel like aligning with the planet that we live on and, you know, is a good idea. I just feel like, well, how are we going to do that? Let's
Yeah,
have it.
it might just be like the circles that I find myself in right now, but it feels like people are awakening to those rhythms of the planet and finding things like we're looking for big complex answers to our problems, to our health problems, our energy problems, our like whatever is going on. And then the answer keeps coming back. What if you sit out in the morning sun? What if you plant your feet into the soil? Right? And that is so healing. Right? That people are finding
Yeah.
answers just from something so simple.
Well, quantum physicists also say that any theory of the universe that is not simple and elegant is not true.
Mm.
So, simple, yes, elegant, all right, affordable, accessible. Those are the things that I think. And the other thing I think that is really big is I think we should share more. I really do. I don't understand really why if someone owns,
Mhm.
12,000 acres or, and who did they buy it from? or I
Yeah.
don't feel like we have, we have the proper systems in action where we can share things and there would be less waste. And maybe I don't want this anymore, but do I throw it in the dump or do I give it
Mhm.
to someone who says, my grandmother had one of those? I'd love to have that. We just don't share. We're kind. I know that we're kind, and I appreciate that. I know there's love here, even if there's not a lot of trust. I know there's a lot of love. There could always be more. And I know that we're working on trust. Every nation on the planet is working on trust.
Mhm.
Every family, right? Every country, every breath you take is an act
Yeah.
of trust in a way. All right. And so we're working on that. Uh, Lots of love, not so much trust, and then the idea of sharing,
Mhm.
just sharing the abundance that we have. Who needs $56 million? Why?
Mhm.
What you can't do it with five? I mean, think about that. You can't live on 5 acres of land, or even 100. But
Yeah.
you know,
There's interesting research in the inverse relationship of happiness and money. And of course it finds that like once your basic needs are met, there's no longer a relationship. Like money does contribute to happiness when you can't pay the rent, you can't feed your kids. That's a problem. You do need more than that to elevate happiness. But once you've solved that issue, there's no longer a connection. There's no longer
well
a
said.
positive connection. Like it's
Well,
not.
that's right.
Mhm.
Well said. Well said. Yes.
Yeah. I wonder about that. You're talking about trust and how we're learning to trust, and if there might be a connection between trust and taking responsibility for ourselves, like personal responsibility for our choices. And I don't know, do you think there's a connection in that? Is that the same thing? Is it about.
Well, yeah. I mean, here's what I'm seeing in birth. Uh, a woman may not trust herself enough to step out of the management, of the confinement of
Mhm.
management. All right. Because she doesn't really trust herself because she hasn't really a- awakened her internal compass. So if we could do that, if we could awaken our internal compass through rites of passage,
Mm.
all right, and acts of transformation, then well, there we are.
Yeah. I think you awaken your internal compass through rites of passage. I
You
like that.
do, and that's the
Mhm.
whole point of a rites of passage. No one can do it for you, and we haven't realized that yet. We're not
Mhm.
using the word correctly, or it's a mixed message. Do you know what I
Yeah.
mean? Oh, you can do this. You'll be able to do this, and then when I start doing it, you got to come in and help me and tell me how to
Mhm.
do it better, whatever. And so we're imprinted with this idea that the professionals will save us. okay? Because we don't know how to do it. And that's where birth is. We've lost our way in many things, not just birth, but in the ability to thrive together. All right.
Mm-hmm.
Thriving together means we have to share and we have to take responsibility for our portion of what we're sharing or you know, that kind of thing. So I, I don't know how to do it. I don't know how to say, hey, everybody, you need to share now. I have
Yeah.
spoken. All right. But maybe just telling stories of how sharing is good. Those are the things that make me cry. I read a story like this, and it's this woman walked to work in the rain and the sleet, and so the policeman on the corner bought her a car. And, those things are just like, oh, but they're
Mm-hmm.
real. That,
Yeah.
I feel like, yeah.
Yeah. I wonder, I'm thinking about this. This has been on my mind a lot lately about this personal responsibility piece. And I had to really take it on in my last pregnancy. I had like no registered care providers in my last pregnancy. I just did it myself and then just had the baby just with like my husband and I at home.
Hmm.
Um, and it really required
A
like
lot
I
of
thought I had
trust.
taken I thought I had taken personal responsibility in my last pregnancies, and I did compared to the one before that. But it
Hmm.
was a whole other level um, of personal responsibility. And where that really gets challenged is when things go a little bit awry, right? When
Yeah.
like I'm not so sure what's happening anymore, or when the outcome isn't what I'd hoped for, or even when outcomes are tragic. I can see
Hmm.
that becomes really hard. And as someone who attends birth and supports women in that particular rite of passage, um, I don't know, like, how do we? I mean, is that something you just have to find all on your own, like the rite of passage, the personal responsibility piece, or is there a way we support each other into that?
Yeah, I think the way we support each other is just person to person.
Mm,
You know, I hope that my feelings and my beliefs will transfer into my children. All right,
mm-hmm,
and that they'll be kind as well or generous and okay. So there's that, and then it grows. It grows. One kind cell then meets another and another, and we become more kind, physiologically speaking.
mm-hmm,
All right. We have the physical structures and the emotional structures to be kinder and to share. And we just keep on seeing that as a pattern rather than I got to look out for me. It's
mm-hmm,
time for me to take care of myself now. And, I got to come first.
mm-hmm,
The caregiver I picked to take care of me when I was pregnant, I was okay. So, when I was young, I really was not into birth or anything like that. And then, I was in my angsty, punky 23s. I used to reach, one of my jobs was to review books. So someone gave me this book on childbirth. It's not around anymore, but I read it and I thought maybe this is a satire. Who would do this? Who would, do you know what I mean? All right. And I knew because I was the oldest of 5 kids and I knew my mom went to a hospital and this and that and the other thing, but I had no idea what the, the level of indignity was, you
mm-hmm,
know? So I said, I'm never going to do that. I'm never going to a hospital. I'm never going to let anyone take my baby or my dignity or my authority. And then when I was pregnant with my first child at 35, that conversation came back to me like, oh, remember when you said you were never going to go?
mm-hmm,
And I was like, oh, yay. So the first thing I did then was say, okay, I'll find a doctor. This is my precious child. I'm going to find a doctor and I want her to be a woman. I want her to be cared for by a woman. And back in those days, 40 years ago, 45, uh, well, the doctors that I looked for and made appointments with were incredibly aloof and not um, not warm in any way. So I tried another OB who was a doc, and it was the same thing. And I thought, what is going on? Later on, I realized that it's because women were thought that even back then, 20 years ago, 30, 40, 50 years ago, women were considered not ready to become doctors. It's not their forte. They are too emotional. They'll get wrapped up. They won't do a good job, And so they were all very aloof. Okay, so I get that now, and I don't blame them. But anyway, then I had to find a doctor. And I was like, well, maybe I'll find some old grandfatherly doctor or something. And I heard about this doctor who saved the life of an 8-year-old boy at peril to his own. I said, that's my doctor. He can put me ahead of him. He's got my back. All right. He's got investment in me. And that's another big thing in this world, investment. What are you investing in? Your children, your family, real estate, your health. All right. But you want to surround yourself with people who are invested in you and what you are invested in. And I mean, I know that Mother Teresa did her thing, and she invested in the poor and the downtrodden and all of that. And we do need that. We need that. But I think that in order to create the pattern on the planet, we just have to keep doing it. Being kind, being responsible, being permeable to energetics that come from a higher place. Einstein said, and this is very relevant, the problems that we have now will not be solved by the thinking that created them.
Yes.
Okay, so where are we going? And how are we listening? And are we cultivating our altered states? Because in ordinary reality, there really is no opportunity to process.
Yeah.
It's all about your mind and thinking and collecting information, so you can't live like that. This is why sleep is programmed in you. All right. You have to sleep. You have to slow down. You have to have a period where you process information in your dreams, in your sleep, in your rest. If you don't, what happens? You go crazy, So we have to, I don't know, I don't have all the answers but I just know what I do. And I try to go into altered states fairly often so that I can see what else is out there. And see what are the patterns that are affecting the earth right now. What are these ancestral patterns that maybe earth itself has, locked in and you can't get out of them because they're like swamps, So I guess just keeping on, and if nothing doesn't change, nothing doesn't change.
Yeah. How do you cultivate these altered states? Birth calls it out of you. Sleep calls it out of you. What if you wanted to with intention?
Oh, and
out.
I do. I do. All right. And so I go into like that place where I just kind of like that daydreaming place. Well, that's an altered state of reality. And we've all been there. Okay.
Yeah.
So I kind of court that kind of thing, if I have time. And I mean, I guess I have time, but yeah, if I'm in the mood, because it's not real or authentic if you're not in the mood to make yourself doing it, or something and it's not like meditating either. It really isn't. It's just looking at things, looking for answers, asking questions of, yourself. Where is your soul? Having more soul level connections. I found that when women were pregnant, their default state was not ordinary reality. It's not. It's that daydream, creative place. Okay.
It's like baby brain, right?
Yeah, we say that, and it's like almost like baby brain. No, sir or madam, it is learning how to parent for one thing, and it's learning how to go into these other places where the information is there. Going into an altered state expands your mind. It widens your gaze. It expands your whole perspective. So slow down. The universe really wants to give you what you want, but slow down so you can catch it,
Yes.
Yeah. All right. And tie through your temple. There's an old, custom, I guess, that you would tithe, you would give 10% of what you had to the thing that supported you. And usually it was your church or your pastor or something like that, okay? That you would give that to something that supported you. All right. And I feel like we could do that. And that would raise the consciousness of our planet. Because that's what we're really trying to do, raise the consciousness.
Yes. I love how you're saying that, like, I hadn't thought of a tithe as giving to something that supported you. It was more of the way I was raised was like a giving down kind of thing.
Oh,
Like, it was like, you were giving to someone who needed it, which is nice. That's okay. But to give to someone who supported you, that's another thing. It's quite beautiful.
Uh-huh. Well, we just jumped in there and got deep right away.
I knew that would happen. So I was like,
too.
I'm going to. I've had a few times where I've like not started recording and I'm like, wait. Let's do. I'm like, that's it. I'm just going to start. And then I just cut out things that need to be cut out. And we just go ahead. Because I'm always so interested in this altered states conversation, which I've heard from you a few times. I know you've spoken a lot on that, especially in terms of birth. And I really saw it play out in with all my pregnancies, but my last one, of course, is closest to my mind. She's just one. She just had a birthday a couple days ago. So I've been thinking a lot about it. Yes. And how it begins in pregnancy, right? Especially like I felt like I had so much more access to altered states when pregnant and when giving birth than now. Like the further away I move from that, I'm like, oh, I'm very much in reality a lot, like almost all the time, unless I take intention. To float somewhere else, to let my mind go somewhere else.
Well, here's another thing most people don't know, that when you get to be an elder, oftentimes you enter that state of alpha, creativity, slowing down, smelling the roses, letting things widen in your mind. And people just think that you're slipping. You know what I mean? Or, mom's getting worse. She's more and more with another foot in the altered state a lot. That's what happens for me. I find myself going there very easily, and I don't have to do anything. I don't have to have a cup of coffee or anything. I just kind of drop down in there because it's the altered state of pregnant women and elder folks. They go into that. And I feel like I need to tell people that, because stop saying your mom's slipping.
Yeah. Right? Yes. I remember my grandma saying that. My aunt was worried that she was in her 90s and was worried that she's like, I don't even know if she follows, them. It was important, like the media or the news anymore. And my grandma looked over at her and she's like, listed like several things that happened. And she's like, and it doesn't matter. And then went on with.
And right now, I change the world in my rocking chair. Okay. Right? Because that's what the monks do. They change their world by chanting and kneeling down and, chanting. And I think us old folks, we just sit in the rocking chair and heal the world.
Children too, like their little children have such access to that, like to that daydream, like thinking of other things. And I worry sometimes what we're doing to them when, like, if there's constantly a screen in front of you, if you're constantly about consumption, then there's no opportunity to flex that muscle or whatever that is that allows you just to float, just to be open.
I think they're okay. I think it's bringing us closer to something. I think it's bringing us closer to be a wavelength, to be able to travel as a particle or a wavelength. That to me is the promise of evolution. And I think our children they're there. I'm not worried about the screens. I used to be, but now I'm like, they like them. They'll get, they're waiting. And while they're waiting to be called, they're waiting to grow up and be called. Okay. They're playing around on screens because you could go all to these worlds. They're getting ready to go there as wavelengths, And I feel like we always, when I was young, it was too much television, and now it's too much screen time, and we ended up okay,
Yeah, it's true. I think, I guess each generation is looking back, reminiscing on their own childhood as
Yep.
the ideal, and then prophesying doom on the next one that doesn't have the same childhood.
Yeah, I guess.
Hmm.
Well, there's something else I want to tell you about personal responsibility in
Tell
birth.
me.
Okay, I feel that this is coming. When I was a young midwife, I uh, I had a very bucolic practice. It was in Georgia. It wasn't a big city practice. I was a farm, go out into the farms and places, and I always wanted to be. It was really important for me to be worthy. I felt like I was wanting to enter your home and enter your space, and I want to be worthy of that. So I really listened to women, and when I listened to them, and didn't think I was going to teach them. I mean, what am I going to teach a woman having her seventh baby? I'm not going to
Hmm.
lie, sit at her feet. And when you listen, I think the moms and families that I worked with, they began to trust me because I listened to them. And then they would tell me things that were their truth. They would speak their truth to me. Okay, because that's one of the reasons I wanted to be trustworthy. I wanted to hear the truth from them.
Hmm.
And one of the first truths they asked me, or things that they asked me to do, was to back up. They do not, like Whapio, we appreciate you. We love you, the way you people love their midwife or whatever. But we don't need you to be the center of our birth. We want
Hmm.
our partners there. We want you to back up and back up some more and back up some more. And every time I backed up, I could see this family taking more and more of their own responsibility. All right. And pretty soon I was just out there on the edge monitoring who's coming in, what's going out, because they were having their baby. They were transforming, and I'm not invited into the inner circle. Maybe I'm invited into the inner circle, but I'm not invited into the birthing circle. Okay.
Hmm.
They preferred that I sat over there and knit a hat or something like that. And I was that was something that I always give thanks that I listened to people and that I had the grace to know what they were saying and the grace to do it, to move back, to return birth to the family. I feel like this is my purpose on the earth, and as long as it's still relevant, I guess I'll be here, all right, or
Hmm.
be checked in. So I see that coming from trust. Once again, trust and worthiness is really big. Love too, yeah, I know there's a lot of love. There can always be more, but it's that again. I'm going back to the trust thing because you're going into the well, what about the accountability and what about responsibility and what is the response ability that we have, you know?
Hmm.
And I feel like I feel like it does matter how you come into the world. I really do. And I also think, and no offense to anyone, but I also think we don't really understand the birth. We don't understand the magnitude of birth as a pivot for transformation.
Hmm.
Okay. And that's what we're trying to do. We're trying to transform this planet from a selfish, mean, ugly, unappreciative pattern to something in the cosmos that's a gem. All right, look at this. Go. Have you gone to Earth yet? Oh, it's great. It's like Disneyland or something. I don't know. I'm just using that as a metaphor in the sense of go to Earth because they've got it. They understand the magnitude of birth, life, death. All right. And I think that's what we're trying to do that's what I'm trying to do to really let people know, because this is what I also know. If we keep doing this, if we keep cycling the pattern, we're going to change our vibration. We're going to
Hmm.
make it stronger and stronger to share, to know, to trust, stronger and stronger, so that everybody just goes on that wave and we're done. We're on a whole new plateau. I think our world is sporadic, like when you were
Hmm.
born, then you were 3, then you were 8, then you were 15, and this circle gets larger and more expansive and more expansive. Okay, and And that's what we want. We want it to become more and more expansive. I mean, living in a closed circle is sort of like a superficial skimming of life. You don't go anywhere, you know. And I feel like we don't want to worship money or people or the moon or any of those things because they put us. I think we should be careful who we worship or what we worship. Do you worship sex? Do you worship money? Do you worship sharing? Do you worship, the things that we're talking about here, heart sincerity and whatnot? And the more people worship, I don't know, the Carolyn Miss says we live below the waist. Do you know what I mean? And I was really surprised at that. I was like, I've never thought of that before, that we are actually involved mostly in, survival and sex. Not to say sex isn't beautiful and wonderful, because it is, but we haven't gotten up to the heart and to the soul. All right, we don't do that enough, but we are now. And I feel like the people who've come here at this juncture, and I mean, I don't know anything about what happens when we die. I don't. I mean, nobody can, I don't think anybody does. I don't know if we're coming back here again, or if you have choices, or if you drift away, or whatever. Okay. I just know that maybe you get what you think you are. Maybe if you think there's a heaven, you get a heaven. Maybe if there, because I love the quantum physics for a layperson. I just the things that they say that are just really relevant to me, in the sense of, we will learn to access to more powers and things. We will see that there's something bigger. That place where Einstein said, go there, that's where the solutions are. All right. And so I feel like birth matters. It does. It matters who you have in the room. It matters if someone's yelling at your mother or not. All right. And right. And birth did we talk about the childhood diseases when we were talking the other day with the ancestral wounds, about not trying to end childhood diseases?
Yeah, let's talk about that.
Well, okay. I think that your body is the temple of your soul, and I think you keep it nice. Okay. And I also think that your body that there's some feat of engineering, all right, that made things make total sense in our body, like fetal circulation. How does a mother carry a baby, and that baby gets the blood, and it's not the mother's blood, and there's two discrete systems? What a feat of engineering and divinity is fetal circulation. Okay. All right.
Yes.
So now, what was I saying? We were saying
ending childhood disease. Should we try to end it?
Well, see, this ties in with the ancestral healing. Children shouldn't have to be born in a miasm, in a swamp, okay? They shouldn't have to be born with all of these things that their parents carry, And so how do you get rid of that? How does a child get rid of that? Because this is not his burden or her burden. It's the parents, all right? And, maybe you consciously created, maybe you got pregnant in a hot tub in Taos or something, all right? But it's not this child's fault or burden to carry. So your body gives you a mechanism for the child to rid themselves of these miasms and swamps of deceit and lies and this and that and the other thing. Why? Because these children are able to become purified, as you were, through childhood diseases. What? Yes. How do you get stuff out of your body? You have a rash, chickenpox. You have a respiratory thing, chickenpox, measles. You have a rash. That is a mechanism Okay? It's a mechanism to get rid of all of those things that you don't need to carry. And it's done without anybody realizing it. You know, you don't have the mom doesn't have to say, okay, now we're going to have this thing where you get all these. It's just built in us. All right. Am I making sense here?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Let it be. All right. And here we are now, you know, trying to take away this mechanism because we don't understand it. You know, when we think childhood disease, it really doesn't kill people. You know what I mean? Anything can kill a person, and we don't see
Right.
like children are dying left and right with chicken pox. No, the
No.
universe favors children. COVID was not about children.
Mm-hmm.
All right, maybe it was about adults trying to heave off and get those things off of us. Okay, so this is what I'm saying. We don't understand the magnitude of our lives. If we did, we would understand what the body is trying to do to get rid of things that we no longer need to carry.
Yeah, that's comes back to that trust in our own bodies, and in if there's like a design in our function that's taking care of us, that there's wisdom inside of there, and we're so interested in symptom suppression and in comfort. Like that comes up in actually all of our rites of passage, right? If you think of menarche or you think of birth and you think of menopause and all these things, like we're always like, ooh, it's uncomfortable. It's uncomfortable. Here's all the things we can give you to make that discomfort stop. Or even in death, right? Like when we're experiencing death or the death of our loved ones, like we just want people to stop suffering. We want it rather than, I don't know, hold each other as we move through these things.
Well, and understanding that you have to do it alone. Nobody can birth your baby for you, really. You would not like that. You know, you would feel like, now I've got to do it again, which is why we have a problem with birth control. Because birth is not satisfying to women. They didn't get it. They didn't get the internal compass thing, so we got to do it again. See what I'm saying? This is pretty amazing, right? You can see where that took us. Birth control. How do we work with that? So, okay. So, what were you saying before this?
What was I saying?
Something you were talking about that was you were on a roll there.
Just like the symptom suppression piece.
Yeah, that too. That's something we need to talk about. Oh, yeah, the comfort thing. That's what we were talking about. And we want to suppress anything that doesn't give us comfort. Okay. And it's endearing in a way. Like, you know what I mean? Oh, yeah, we all want to be comfortable. Like, I get it. Let's be comfortable, you know, but really what you're going to come to in your life, if you're looking, is that change happens outside your comfort zone. Unless you want change light with fewer calories or something. If you want the real transformation, you're going out of your comfort zone. All right.
Yeah, it's always the hard things. It's the things I don't want to do. Like always. Or like truly awful things that have happened where I'm like, I got to level up. I'm a nicer person. I get things. I see things I couldn't see.
Right.
I can sit with people in places I didn't understand before because now I did it.
My vibration has changed. My vibration has changed. And I think that like what we seeks us, you know, I really do feel that's true somehow. And what I think is that, you know, I really like to spend time with people that I feel like have the same vibration that I do. All right. As an elder, as a birthing companion and that kind of thing, working with that. And I love the fact that I'm working with altered states. I think that is the rope that we've been waiting for the heavens to throw us, you know? Well, just do this. Just go into an altered state where your vibration is different. Go there frequently until you start vibrating differently. All right? And don't worship the moon. The moon is here to keep you in line. Okay? The moon doesn't help you evolve. It's a circle around a circle around a circle. And we worship things like that. And I'm using a metaphor in a way. If you want to worship, you could do whatever you want to do. But the things that we worship, the things that we give our investment to, say a lot about who we are. All right. And I want to have a vibration where I can be my highest and best.
Yeah, it matters. It matters where you spend your time and where you spend your focus.
Yeah, it does.
Yeah, you mentioned something like that in the ancestral healing masterclass that I'm trying to think where that was going about it mattering who you spend time with.
And about changing your vibration.
And how we do that.
Yeah, and how we do that. Cancer is a vibration. It's a vibration in your body. And what if it was like one cell all of a sudden got angry because they weren't loved or trusted or cared for? And then they began to rage, and then another cell, and then another cell, and another cell. And instead of making a beautiful colony of cells, they made us angry, group of cells that no one loves, that people hate, tumors and ulcers like that. It's hateful. Maybe we should just love it a little more. Maybe it all began because there was hate. There was someone left out or hurt. Someone was hurt there, and they were in the vibration of hurt, and they were maybe waiting for someone to come along and share something with them. And,
yes.
And it all goes back to some of these very simple, but, very simple concepts.
Yeah. Yeah. When you think of that, it's like we think of fighting cancer, right? We fight it and we win the battle against it. But it is us. Like cancer by its nature it's you. It's growing. Like it is my body growing. It is not it's not foreign. It's me.
Yes. And all those tumors that we have, a lot of times, a tumor is not a bad thing. A tumor acts to take things out of your circulation that shouldn't be and encapsulate them in something. And then sometimes a tumor can get too much and too big and then spill out, and then, gosh, like an oil spill. What are we going to do now? But, seeing it that way, seeing it the way like, okay, I just need to love my body a little more. I need to go down in there and find that cell and say, I'm sorry,
Thank you.
Or what? That's it. Thank you. I get you. I hear you. Rather than, like I said, we tend to think everything is toxic. And menopause, don't get me started. Menopause with the hot flashes and wow, you come out of menopause a new person. And those hot flashes, you want to love them. You know why? Because they're burning off all the stuff you don't want to carry anymore. The yeast, the moles, the sexual intrusions, the everything. It's all those hot flashes are just purifying you. Love them. Know that when you are finished going through this little phase, you will be a new person and you will start a new vibration in your life. Unless you try to shut it down.
It's interesting when you think we're coming to know that we heal through states of warmth and heat. And we sort of know that in postpartum, like we wrap up women and we give them warming foods. And we know like no matter what's happening, we stay warm in that phase. We're coming to know that, right? And a new study just came out that people are talking about now about maybe not suppressing fever in children, that maybe we shouldn't because our body is healing in a state of heat. Right. And then if you think that I hadn't thought of that, if you move into menopause and hot flashes and you're just like, maybe
it's
you're
the same
just purging.
Thing. It's
like
purging. It's exactly. It's getting rid of something. And children are designed to have very high fevers. And a high fever is a good sign. You know why? It shows that your body is putting out a good, strong immune response. It's those dallying fevers, those fevers of unknown origin that we worry about. Or we don't even worry about them. They have their place. We just need to figure out what they want to say to us.
I think maybe those are the opportunities where we refine that, like hearing your inner voice, finding an altered state
Mhm.
of the knowing outside of
Yeah.
birth. Like in birth, like if you're undisturbed of it, like you're gonna find it, you're gonna get to that knowing place. And then I'm like, okay, how do I keep getting there? Well, for me, the only ways I found that I keep getting there is through moments of crisis. Like my little baby, who's just one, just had her first sort of long sickness, whatever was happening to her. She was working through something and she had a whole week of like a fever that I didn't take the temperature of with intention. It was very
Mhm.
high. She was very
Mhm.
hot and very uncomfortable. And
Mhm.
we don't have pharmaceuticals in our house anymore.
Mhm.
And so then what does she have? Like I have to watch her be sad. So that's a thing
Mhm.
for me to carry. And I can just hold her and she can have milk, like, she's breastfeed
Yeah.
and we snuggle and I feel for her and I'm with her in it as much as I can be. But really she's cycling through her own upgrade, whatever that is. And I have to be like, do I
Totally.
believe it? Do I believe what I say right now? This is the
Yeah.
moment.
Yeah.
Do I want to go fetch Tylenol? Do I want, like, I do actually. I actually
Mhm.
do want to make it stop for her. That's what I
Mhm.
want.
Mhm.
But just to let it like sit with myself quietly and be like, do I think she's in danger? Do I actually think? No, I don't actually think she's in danger. I actually believe she's got this. And I'm
Mhm.
in that can communicate to her that
They
she's got
do.
this.
They
Her body
do.
is wise. She's going to be better on the other side of it. She's releasing something that is no longer for her, that she doesn't need.
Physically, emotionally, mentally, on the soul level, all of it. We have these mechanisms. We weren't just dumped down here and, into a swamp.
Mhm.
Okay? And yeah, being a witness to a person's life change is, I think, a beautiful thing rather than
Mhm.
feeling that you have to change what's going on with them.
Mhm.
My mantra is I feel like it's not my privilege to know the destiny of another person.
Mm.
Otherwise, I don't think I would do the work I did or all the midwifery that I did, in the sense that it's just knowing really that it's not my privilege to know your destiny or to change it,
Yeah.
right?
That's hard as a parent because I want that to be my privilege. I want to know where it's going. And I want to forge the direction for them and make sure it's where I want them to go.
And we do, and they throw it off,
Yeah.
by being angsty teenagers,
Mhm.
Uh, my son yelled at me one time because he felt that I raised him to be kind, and kindness means that you're a wimp. All right. And I was like, well, is that your experience of kindness? And he's like, yeah, I'm kind. So therefore people think I'm a pushover. And I'm like, oh, well, there's another thing that you have to, find your ground in. Yeah.
Mhm. Yep. Constant opportunities for evolution. That's what
Yeah.
I'd say. Oh, I
We're
guess all
lucky.
relationships are.
We're lucky. We really
Mhm.
are. This is a beautiful planet, honestly, and
Mhm.
it has a lot of beauty and soul here. And
Mhm.
yeah, I know. We just have to talk about these things because the more we talk about kindness, every time I say kindness, someone else becomes kind.
Mhm.
You know, every time we say a vibration, we rise a little bit higher. Okay, and that, and so speaking aloud,
Yep.
writing songs about it,
Yeah, and
singing.
that's the power of these conversations. That's sort of what I had decided and I try to keep to in having this podcast is I want to like what kind of things it sort of came out of something like I didn't want to happen that I was seeing happening in our birth community and I was like I need to have I need to speak against that. And I was like, no, I actually want to speak for what I want. What do I want? I want more. I want women to know what's possible. And then they get to
Mhm,
choose. It's okay. But you just have to know what's possible or there's no choice. So we're going to share these stories of what is possible. And we're going to speak to wise women about the things that are, yeah, just what's possible in our lives, the choices that we can make if we'd like
mhm,
to, and
mhm,
call in more of what I'd like to see and that's
mhm,
challenged regularly as things come up. Like there's things coming up in our birth community here that are really hard
mhm,
that I don't want to see. And I want to rail against it. Like I want to fight against it. But there's no, I can't say for anyone else like that's never the answer. But for me, it keeps coming back to, no, I need to put more effort into what I want. What do I want to see?
Yeah. Mm-hmm. That's well said. Really good.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's a good mission for all of us, and simply to witness, not to change things. The Tao of wisdom says the wise one performs her work by doing nothing really. She teaches without speaking a word. Things arise and she lets them come. Things leave and she lets them go. Creating, not possessing, working, making no claims. And then when her work is done, she forgets it and it lasts forever. And the hardest sentence in this is she does her work, she performs her work with doing nothing. She teaches without speaking a word. Things arise. And it's so easy to say, and she fixes them. Right? Mm-hmm. No, she lets them come. And then she lets them go. Yeah. I think that is such a beautiful mantra and way to step through the earth, letting it come. Just witnessing it, let it come, let it be witnessed.
It's also actually the only option we have. Like this illusion that you have any control over it, and this fighting and grasping for it. Like we're speaking a lot now in the birth community here about like, how do we make ourselves safe attending births? It's scary. It's, there's a lot of powers that be coming down on birth keepers, on people who support women in the way that women would like to be supported. Mm-hmm. And so what are we going to do? Like, how are we going to make ourselves safe? And I'm like still open to hearing, like having those conversations and doing what we can. But ultimately the answer is what you're saying there.
Let it come.
Let it come.
And then let it go. And then it will be less of a distraction. Because, a lot of the stuff that happens is a distraction. I'm not saying it doesn't happen. I'm not saying that people aren't hurt. And I'm not saying that people shouldn't have opinions. But I remember all through my life realizing in the middle of the fray, oh, this is just a big distraction. And pulling my energy together and pulling out, and doing it with honor, honor and integrity.
Yes.
And, I tell you, I thought, what is Melissa going to ask me? Is she going to ask me how I feel about birth today, or things like that? And I said, what should I say to her? All right. And, yes, in the words of Michel Audin, we've lost our way when it comes to birth, and there's no one to blame. You see what I mean? There's no one person did all this, and it's just the way we've just lost our way. And once we realize that all the fighting, we've lost our way. All right, then now what? Now where do we go? We go to the people who are invested in us, the people who are in our vibration, the people who want to know about the magnitude of life. And, you could spend a lifetime just walking the earth being a witness. All right? Just witnessing. And the older I get and the more births I went to, I realized that I wasn't here certainly to catch a baby. I wasn't here to manage a woman through her birth, right? I wasn't here to tell her what to do. I was here to witness what comes and what goes.
I love that. As a birth witness. And that's really, I don't know, maybe one of the main differences when you're choosing a birth keeper possibly versus choosing somebody regulated within a system.
Yeah.
Are you choosing someone to manage what's happening? Or are you choosing someone to witness?
Yeah. And I like to say, choosing someone to manage or choosing someone to mentor, because that allows us also to open the circle to other people who want to offer assistance to you or want to, you know, stand with you in terms of your transformation, or, you know, yeah.
I think that leads into, you should talk a little bit about your upcoming Birthkeepers cohort that you have going on. I keep like looking into it. I'm like, it's calling me. I want to do it. And then I'm like, no. I have 5 children. I have a lot going on right now. It's not a good time. I can, some other time. And then I just tuned into your masterclass you had last week on the ancestral
I'm so glad
healing.
you got to hear that.
It was
I'm
so
so
good.
glad you got to hear that.
I'm going to listen to it again because I had 2 toddlers I was wrangling at the same time. And so I'm like, there's more there. I need to actually take notes. So I'm going to listen to it again. But I don't even think you spoke about this cohort. And I was like, I have to do it. I have to do it.
Thank you.
So it's like, it was sold to me with no effort, without it even coming up. So maybe you can speak a little bit to what you have coming up.
Well, what we wanted to do was show the depth and the profundity of this year of devotion that I'm asking people for, a year's devotional to birth. And if you do that, if you give yourself to birth for a year, and it doesn't mean you aren't the mother of 5 or you don't have to quit your job or anything like that. It means that you don't put a lot of other stuff on your plate because you're busy changing. All right. And this is the depths that we're going to go to. All right. And tomorrow I'm doing another one with the role of the father in birth. All right. What happened there? Okay. And
I love that conversation. I've heard that.
Yeah. So the cohort is to really like I say, spend a year, become that fountain of information. You will be so surprised what you know. All right. Find yourself entrenched with other women who have like-mindedness, who want to see and be and witness the magnitude of birth and where it can take you. All right. And be of assistance in any way, but not intrude. All right. So it's a program that really covers everything. It's the program that I would have wished for when I was a baby midwife in 1985. Okay. And so there's a strong academics portion of this program, because don't you want to know your body? Don't you want to know the anatomy and physiology of birth? You know, how perfect and wonderful it is, how amazing, how divine it is, really, on all those levels. So you want to understand the physiology. And then we also have wisdom keeping. This is where we learn to cultivate our intuition. This is where we learn to heal our wounds. And for me, your wounds are yours, and I don't get mixed up in them because it's not my privilege, okay, to know what these wounds are bringing you and to say you need to heal them. But I do tell women, if you're in this program, there's an impetus to heal your wounds, because we don't want to bring our wounds to another person's transformation. You know, that's highly inappropriate. So we talk a lot about wounds and what's under them, and how do we heal them, and when are we exaggerating them, and what to do if if we find ourselves or our best friend indulging you in her wound or something. How do we navigate the woundology? And then after we do that, we take on rank. And I don't mean the rank of like gender or religion or anything like that. I mean that psychological rank that we pull on people, that is now the default behavior of this era that we live in. It's okay to pull rank. It's okay not to be transparent. It's okay, and it used to be like the strongest person was the ruler, and we're coming back to that now. Who's ever the strongest person, they get all the privilege. So we're all battling for rank. I want more rank. I need more rank. And when you are in the trenches here, okay, you get to see it. You get to see how wow everything is dependent on rank, how much money you have, much privilege you get. You don't get a lot of rank if you're have AIDS. You don't get a lot of rank if you're, an old lady. You don't get rank if you are,
Mhm.
These various things. If you're not smart, if you can't articulate yourself, all right. And I feel like we have to deal with this because it's very prevalent in the medical model, and it's very prevalent in birth.
Mhm.
Caregivers are ranky.
Mhm.
Doctors can be really ranky, and midwives can too. And doulas can be ranky, and you know, and we do this to women. We create a power dynamic as soon as we meet them. you know and then we ask them all these questions about, so how many abortions have you had, how many pounds of sugar do you eat each week, was your mother ever in a mental institution, how many sexually transmitted diseases have you had, and call it an intake so we can help you better.
Yeah.
All right, when it's really a tool that is used consciously or unconsciously to set up rank,
Hmm.
right there between a mother and a midwife even. All right. And then
Mhm.
we are aware of this and we call it out when we see it. All right. That takes another level of strength. Okay. But you've realized that's there's no penalty for that. There's a penalty for parking your car in the wrong place, but there's no penalty for lying to someone.
Yeah.
you know what I mean? We're
Mhm.
very screwed up here. There's no penalty, or you don't get a citation for not being transparent. Right?
Mhm.
Okay. So anyway, like I said, it's endearing when you look at it sometimes.
Mhm.
Look at us, and
Get far enough
now
above.
now
Oh.
now how old are we now emotionally on this planet? 12.
Yeah.
You know? It's
Mhm.
good, it's like a raunchy teenager. We're gonna have to go through some of these levels of, trust and trustworthiness, and what I've come up with is never lie to your children.
Mhm.
Never try to trick your children because they know you're
Yeah.
doing it, and they don't trust you anymore. And this is the thing, we deeply want our children to trust us.
Yes.
Deeply, we would give anything. So don't lie because they already know. And if you lie to me and then pretend, and then you think that I don't know, that's adding insult to injury,
Yeah.
okay, or whatever. And yeah, so that's a good place to start. Don't lie.
Mhm.
uh, you know Anyway, we were talking about the cohort, and I
Yes.
was saying how these are the things that we talk about, though.
Mhm.
These are the
Yeah.
things. All right. And there's a whole homeopathic course woven into it. And of
Mhm.
course, miasms and ancestral healing and ancestral wounding is part of this. Okay. Nobody did this by themselves. It was passed down
Mhm.
generation after generation after generation. Although we are now creating new ones. Okay. Um,
Mhm.
I worked with a woman one time. She was a student and she created a new miasm, and she said it's the narcissistic miasm.
Mhm.
All right. And she had all the remedies for it. And it was brilliant. She took it to them and they said, no, we're not gonna, it's part of the, I think they said some other miasm. Anyway, but my point is we have new miasms coming as we become new. And I think I talked about the leprosy one,
Mhm.
about feeling like you're an outcast and therefore you will give all of your power away to be included. That kind of
Yeah.
thing. That's out there.
Yeah.
Anyway, um, I would love for people to come and take this course with us.
Mhm.
It honestly is more than just a midwifery educational program. It's food. It's your due diligence for life.
The
And you
soul food.
want to do your
Mhm.
due diligence, and you can do it in a year because women deserve a caregiver who has done their due
Mm.
diligence. Okay, so hop to, all right, and find a way where you and the wisdom keeping to me is so precious. We learn how to communicate. We learn how to mediate. Okay. We learn how to help two people hear each other that might not have been hearing each other for the past 9 months. We know how to run a mediation. All right. I think this is an amazing skill to have. I was a community mediator. All right. And I feel like you got to think about that because, what do women want? What do women and families want? Someone to come in and solve their problems? No, someone to come in and help them solve their problems and help them navigate their problems. So mediation is of the future as well. Taking personal responsibility. When you come to mediation, that's what you're going to do. You can see what they added to the problem, but you also see what you add to the problem. All right? It is world work. It really is. I believe that we're doing soul work and we're doing world work here. All right? And I encourage people to just speak it out. Speak out what you want. Speak out what you want for the world. That's what those old folks are doing when they're humming in their rocking chair on the front porch. They're knitting something. All right, with their hum and their voice and their and their rock and they're getting into an altered state. When you see someone rocking, just like you right now, we're getting into an altered state, right? Okay, and there it is. And put a little music on, and you can stay there for a good while. And then you ask to see, one time, I do crazy things. I asked to see my illusions. Well, because I didn't think I had a lot of them,
Oh, no.
Oh, it was awful. I will never do that again, to ask to see my illusions. I was trying to beat them off, like, no. Okay, we all have it. We all have our illusions. And then when we get rid of those, more come. I feel like,
it never ends.
Well, no, maybe it's never meant to end on this planet.
There's always work. We don't live long enough or something. I don't know.
Well, and we really bought into the duality. Let's stay here, and learn what's appropriate and what isn't, right? And we can use good and bad if that's what you want, but, Christian Scientists use, is it appropriate or inappropriate? That really nothing's inherently good or bad, nor is a person. But sometimes they don't act appropriately, and sometimes they do. I like that, although I should use that more.
Yeah, it's a good one.
Right.
So when does this cohort start?
It starts February 1st and 2nd. We have an orientation, and then we have it's really cool. If you like structured things, this is it. On every single week of the year that we are in session, you will be told what to do. Watch this video, do this assignment, okay? And you really feel safe because every week you'll never say, what are we supposed to be doing? Or I don't know where we are, or no. Because I know people like to be safe and secure and structured. I also know that people like to be flexible, and we have to have that built into the course as well. So you can keep you keep the program forever. It's like a library of holistic quantum midwifery, all right? And you have that education now so that you can weave freely into the birthing realm, knowing what's in the mind of the doctor, what's in the mind of the midwife, what's in the mind of the doula, what's in the mom's mind, okay? And so we have a part that's very flexible. You don't have to come if you have to miss a week because your baby is sick, no one will penalize you for that. There's no homework. There's no papers. We write to our clients. No, we speak to them. All right. So there's no exams. This is your program. It's full of stuff. I mean, full of stuff. And you can do it any way you want. You can take up to 5 years to do it if you want to. You can walk away from it for a year. You can say, I've had enough birth and la, 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 la. You can say, I'm not doing any more academics until this fall. I've had enough in my head. I can't put anything else in my head. I'm going to work all on the business, the wisdom keeping stuff now. oh, I came for the wisdom stuff. That's why I'm here. And so what we'll do is we'll get you in a study group that emerges organically because you have watched people introduce themselves and you're like, I like the way she looks. I like what she's saying. I'm going to reach out to her and see if she wants to study together. Or somebody else is going to say, hey, I'm here for the academics. Anybody want to be with me? It's really structured and we're going to do this thing. And, so I really like that. We've got both, structure and flexibility. And we have, I come every month. I come for a 4-hour Saturday, middle of the week. I mean, a second weekend of the month. And we have a lot of extracurricular stuff. I've hired Audrey, who is going to take you through yourself and your practice integrally. How to manage outside now after this, how to manage yourself and your practice in an integral way. And we've got people coming in doing, placenta art and what's in the midwife's bag and just all kinds of cool stuff, we talk about fear and how to handle it. We talk about deep things. We talk about finding your sign. I tell a lot of stories because I feel like, women tell me, we like your stories, Whapio.
Mm-hmm.
Tell us a story. Okay. And
I
I'm like,
love learning through story.
Really. It's so,
Mm-hmm.
you always remember it that way,
It's an anchor point.
It truly is,
Mm-hmm.
And, well, I think I've said everything.
Yeah.
I'm charging $3,500. You have a complete library. You get everything right away. So there's no, if you have to walk away from it, you didn't get the last 3 modules or something. Nope, you get the whole thing and you get it to keep for as long as you like. Okay. And you get perks and different things like that. You get a good structure on how to learn, For instance, I'm going to tell you that I do spiral teaching. And in the first module that we have, I might introduce the heart. Okay. The intelligence of the heart. Then I go to the next module and I talk about, well, what are the structures of the heart? And then I widen the spiral. Okay, well, what more about the anatomy and physiology of the heart and what is blood pressure? And then again, okay, in module 8, we're talking about then what could happen when things go awry with the heart. So it's a pattern. We're teaching patterns, not ladders of facts. And I really love that.
Yeah.
A lot of teaching is very yang, and we're going to do the yin part. We're going to just do how you feel and what you want to know today and what you want to share with your study group or what you want to accomplish with your study group, that kind of thing. So anyway, I like the course. I really do. And I hope you have a chance to meet with us. This is my last year of doing, after all that, this is my last year of doing it. I'm going over into the homeopathy realm because I feel like I've said a lot over the years and you've got my message. Do not intrude on another woman's birth, okay? Elevate, celebrate, okay? All right, integrate. But anyway, so this is, if you want to study together, we'll have Jess is my co-facilitator and she's a wonderful person and has she's great. All right. And she'll be doing it next year in 2026. Okay. So this is my last year with really being involved. And, I'm getting older. I'm not able to travel as much as I wish I could just say, oh, I'm coming, but I'm not, because I do get a lot of lovely invitations. And I honestly have to say thank you. You are the best. I love my job so much because I get to meet some of the best people on earth. That would be you. So thanks for that.
I love it.
That moment, that window. All right.
Yeah. Okay. Well, thank you so much for spending time with me today.
Is it over?
Should we? Yeah. Well, there's always more. You should come back.
Well, tell me what impressed you with our conversation. What did you like about it, or what did you get, or
what did I like? Let me see. What am I like? I started. So usually when I'm recording, I take little notes of things. I'm like, oh, I'll make like a little quote, thing of that. And I stopped halfway through, and I was like, I always listen again. I'm just gonna listen again, and check it again. But when I was writing things down, I loved what you were talking about. Just like the this soundbite of like returning birth to the family. I like that, which I've heard you say before, but each time it comes to me at another level. And that awakening your internal compass through rites of passage, because women, we talk about that a lot. Like, how do I know though? Like, how do I know? How do I know when it's my fear or my intuition? What's the difference? Right. And that's like, it's through our rites of passage. I love that. It made me think I want to really explore more the rite of passage of Monarch. I have a little baby girl, and like, how am I going to initiate her into that rite of passage or support whatever it is she needs to move through that rite of passage, and at least not hinder it, like at least be able to not.
That's true. Yeah. Okay. Cool.
Yeah, those are the things it brought up for me, and also that cultivating altered states piece.
Yeah, definitely. All right. We have so many other places that we can go that have information for us, and we talk about, the safety. We talk about what if it's overwhelming. We talk about, is it going to be the 1,000 arms of hell if I actually go into an altered state and what if I can't get back, and how I make it very reassuring, and you don't have to be any place you don't want to be. I mean, I can just say that right now. You'll get the tools for not being any place you want to be. This is not about being in the 1,000 arms of hell. It's being in an altered state where your gaze is widened and your perspective is enlarged. Okay. And like you said, going into the realms of knowing, this is where we really know stuff. All right. In ordinary reality, we think about stuff, and then in the creative period where we feel stuff. But when you get into that deep altered state, you know stuff, and that's
a knowing that
valuable.
doesn't come from facts or things you were told. Like, for so long, like I thought that was the highest level of knowing, and I was like really good at spouting facts and studies and science, and but that's such a small type of knowing. That's such a little bit of knowing, like knowing with like a capital letter, the knowing that transcends any other kind of knowing that you could have before. Like, finding that in yourself, that's the journey of, like, in relationships, in rites of passage, in parenting, right? That
the whole thing
feels to me like an invitation into there, which you can walk by, you can blow by it if you want to, but it's going to keep inviting you back.
You're right. That's what I feel too. Yeah. So I'm glad you said all that. That was really good.
Yeah. Well, thank you.
Well,
Thanks
I'm so
for
happy
listening.
to know you.
I'm hopeful I'm going to join you in February.
Well, if you're interested, please do not let money stand in the way. There is plenty of money, and it will come. We don't need to be in lack. I'm not running this program in lack. I'm saying to people, the money is there, and I will make a generous payment plan with anyone who says, I don't have it right now, but I know it will come. I'm willing to wait.
Yes. That's part of, I want to listen to your ancestral homeopathy piece again, because so many of those pieces, I was like, I'm self-diagnosing with all of the miasms, all of them.
Right.
I sent it to I was like, Mother, you have to listen to this with me. This is amazing.
Oh, goodness.
But that was one has been on my mind in the last year, this like feeling of lack, where I'm like, if I keep feeling that, I'm going to keep calling in not enough. Right. And it's not true. Like, the universe is abundant, and like, I still don't know the answer. I don't know how I like release that deep feeling of like, there isn't enough for me. Even though like right now it's in my head, it's not true, but like my body doesn't believe that's true. So maybe some homeopathy.
This is important because somehow you have chosen and we're chosen to get the word out. okay?
Mm-hmm.
By bringing it out and sharing it among the people, because you have a podcast and you're going to reach thousands of people, whereas, one-to-one, I go to your birth, it's just us,
Mm-hmm.
The midwives, women said, Whapio, we have taught you well. You need to go out and teach now. You do, because we've taught you what women really want in birth, and what, they don't want you in the center of their birth. They want this, they want that, and can you stand with them? So, yeah, all right. It's important that you speak it. And you've been designated to do that.
I think so.
And
This
I salute
feels
you. Much respect.
like a life path. This thing I found here and created. Okay. Well, thank you. Maybe all my children are upstairs. I'll just go replay that that Zoom recording now.
Okay. All right. Thanks for having me.
Thanks for listening. You can head to Instagram and birth.throughtheveil to see birth pictures or just pictures from each episode. The show notes have links and more ways to connect, along with the link to submit your birth story. I would love to hear it. New episodes of Through the Veil come out every other Tuesday. You can follow, subscribe, share, rate, and review this podcast to be in support. Until next time.